we're going to tackle one of the biggest riddles out there: consciousness. I mean, it's the one thing we all experience every single moment. It's everything we know. And yet, when we try to pin it down, to really define what it is, it feels like trying to grab a handful of smoke. So, let me just start with a question to get your gears turning. Is the world you see around you right now, is it real? Or is it just the version that your brain has decided to show you? Because the answer, well, it might make you question everything. You see, it turns out our brains are not these objective little cameras just recording reality. Oh no, they're master storytellers, constantly editing, simplifying, and sometimes they just straight up make things up. We're about to pull back the curtain on the greatest magician you've ever met, your own mind. Okay, so check this out. There was this famous experiment at Harvard. They asked people to do something really simple: just count how many times a basketball was passed in a video. But while everyone was laser focused on counting, a person in a full-body gorilla suit walked right into the middle of the scene. And the craziest part? More than half of the people never even saw the gorilla. Their brain was so busy with one task, it literally made a gorilla invisible. And it gets even weirder. In another study, this 50% represents the people who didn't even notice when the person they were talking to was secretly replaced halfway through the conversation. I'm not kidding. A couple of guys carrying a big wooden door walked between them, a totally different person stepped in, and over half the people just kept talking like absolutely nothing had happened. So what's going on here? Well, scientists call it change blindness. They've shown people two pictures flashing back and forth that are almost identical. And most people completely miss massive changes, like a whole barn just vanishing from a field. It proves your brain isn't recording reality. It's creating a story based on what it expects to see, filling in the gaps along the way. Okay, so our brains play tricks on us. We get that. But that's just the mechanics. That doesn't even touch the deeper mystery. Why do we feel anything at all? Why is there an inner movie playing inside your head? This, my friends, brings us to what's known as the hard problem. A philosopher named David Chalmers famously coined this term, the hard problem. It's not about what the brain does, it's about what it feels like to be the one experiencing it. It's the taste of a strawberry, the pang of sadness, the breathtaking color of a sunset. Why isn't all of this just data processing happening in the dark with no one home to experience it? And this right here shows you the huge gap. The easy problems, and trust me, they're anything but easy for neuroscientists, are about function. How do we see? How do we remember things? But the hard problem is totally different. Why is there a viewer watching all of this information unfold? That's the real mystery. To really get a feel for this gap, let's try a famous thought experiment. Imagine a neuroscientist named Mary. She is the world's leading expert on color vision, but here's the twist. She's never actually seen color. She has lived her entire life in a completely black and white world. From inside her monochrome room, Mary learns every single physical fact there is to know about seeing the color red. She knows the exact wavelengths, how the cones in your retina fire, which neural pathways light up in the brain. From an objective, scientific standpoint, her knowledge is absolutely complete. And now for the million-dollar question. One day, Mary walks out of that room and sees a red tomato. For the very first time, she sees the color red. Does she learn anything new? Because if the answer is yes, if she has that, oh, so that's what red is like moment, it means there's a whole part of reality, the entire dimension of subjective experience, that just can't be explained by physical facts alone. Mary's room really pushes us to the limits of science. And that leads us to this radical, totally mind-bending alternative, an idea proposed not by mystics, but by the actual founders of quantum physics. What if the brain doesn't create consciousness at all? What if it just receives it? I mean, just listen to this from Max Planck, the father of quantum theory. He's not saying consciousness is just some fluke that happens in brains. He's saying the exact opposite, that matter itself comes from consciousness. This completely flips the whole script. It suggests consciousness isn't some side effect of a complex brain. It's the fundamental source code of reality itself. So this breaks down into two big ideas. The standard view, the generator theory, says your brain, this 3-pound lump of tissue, actually manufactures your awareness. When the brain dies, lights out. But the receiver theory suggests something else entirely. It says that consciousness is a fundamental field, like gravity.
and your brain is just a highly advanced antenna that tunes into it. In this view, you aren't the radio, you're the song being played through it. So think about what that means. If the brain is a receiver, its main job isn't to create your reality, but to protect you from the full, unfiltered fire hose of cosmic consciousness. The writer Aldous Huxley called it a reducing valve. It filters out an almost infinite reality and lets in only the tiny trickle of information we need to survive here on Earth.
Now, this idea of a universal mind, it has a pretty staggering implication. If we're all just tuning in to one universal consciousness, then maybe we're not just passive observers of reality. Maybe we're actually its architects.
For centuries, people have tried to visualize this using symbols just like this one, the flower of life. It's a metaphor for the entire universe unfolding from a single point of awareness, suggesting that creation isn't random chaos, but an intelligent, ordered pattern expanding from one conscious source.
So how could this even work? Well, on the tiniest scale, you have quantum physics and the observer effect, where particles seem to wait for us to look before they decide to become real. On the social scale, think about things like money or laws. They aren't real physical things, right? But our collective belief in them creates these incredibly powerful forces that shape our lives. And then, taking it a step further, many spiritual paths teach the I am principle, that the universe basically reflects your deepest beliefs about yourself back to you. In every case, consciousness seems to be the thing that turns possibility into reality.
And you know what? This idea that we're all intertwined with the cosmos, it's not new at all. In fact, it's ancient. Ancient cultures created these unbelievably sophisticated systems just to map this very relationship.
Now, the key to understanding systems like astrology is to stop thinking of them as literal science. It's better to see them as a symbolic language. It's all built on one core idea: as above, so below. Basically, the patterns you see way out there in the heavens, in the macrocosm, are also reflected deep inside of you, in the microcosm. Okay, this looks like a lot, but stick with me. This is a perfect example of that principle. It's layering the zodiac wheel, a map of the heavens, right on top of the human brain and nervous system. In this kind of system, the planets aren't just big rocks floating in space. They're seen as symbols for energies that match up with specific centers in our own bodies. It's a map suggesting that the whole universe isn't just out there, it's also encoded right here, in here. And here's another amazing example. The story of Jacob's Ladder, a staircase to heaven, isn't seen as a literal event. It's read as an allegory for an inner journey. The ladder is the human spine, with its 33 vertebrae. And the journey up that ladder is about raising your own consciousness from the lower physical levels up to the higher spiritual centers in the brain. It's a roadmap to enlightenment. So, when you pull all these threads together, from quantum physics to ancient symbolism, you arrive at a pretty profound conclusion. You are not some random accident floating through a meaningless universe. You're an essential part of it. You are the universe's way of experiencing itself. The cosmos is seeing its own beauty through your eyes, and it's hearing its own music through your ears. Which leaves us with one final, perspective-shattering question to think about. What are you, really? Are you a complex biological machine that, through some random fluke of evolution, learned how to think? Or are you something infinitely grander, the entire universe, waking up and learning what it's like to be, specifically, you?